Welcome to this explainer. Buying a tank truck, it is definitely not like picking a sedan off the dealership lot. It's more like piecing together a massive million-dollar puzzle. If you're a fleet manager or maybe an international buyer trying to source commercial vehicles, you've probably asked the big question. How much does a tank truck actually cost in China? Well, today we're going to enthusiastically deconstruct this highly variable pricing, and we'll hand you a literal blueprint that will take all the guesswork out of your next procurement cycle. Let's get right into it. So, here is our blueprint for today. First, we'll tackle the price tag myth. Then, we'll look at the chassis cost foundation. Third, we've got tank materials and capacity. Fourth is equipment and application costs. And finally, making the right choice.
All right, Section 1, the price tag myth. Why a standard price tag rarely exists.
Seriously, why is there no standard price tag for a tank truck? It's a question that drives procurement officers absolutely crazy. You just want a single number, right? But instead, the manufacturer hits you with a dozen highly specific questions. And the reason for this shift from buyer frustration to manufacturer reality is incredibly important. These vehicles are highly customized pieces of industrial machinery. They are not off-the-rack commodities. They are tailored precisely to what you need them to do. And every single spec you change literally moves the needle on the final price.
Now, take a look at this massive slice of the budget right here. This is wild. But the chassis alone eats up roughly 50 to 70% of your total cost. The rest of that pie? It's split between the raw materials of the tank body and the highly specialized pumping equipment. So if you want to truly understand the price of a tank truck, you've got to start by understanding the chassis.
Which brings us right into Section 2, the chassis cost foundation, emissions, weight, and brands.
Okay, the engine's emission standard is one of the biggest single cost drivers you're going to face. If you're buying a truck built to Euro 3 or Euro 4 standards, you're dealing with much simpler baseline technology, which obviously means a lower upfront cost. But if your local regulations demand a Euro 6 engine, brace yourself for a pretty significant price jump. Meeting those UNECE heavy-duty emission standards for Euro 6 requires some really complex exhaust systems, things like selective catalytic reduction, or SCR, and diesel particulate filters, known as DPF. These advanced components mechanically drive up the chassis production cost. There's just no way around it.
And then you have the brand of the chassis itself. The Chinese market offers a bunch of options for export, and your choice here really impacts both your initial budget and your long-term maintenance. Think of it like choosing between different tiers. For a highly cost-effective approach, brands like Dongfeng and FAW are fantastic for light to medium-duty operations. They offer lower entry prices and parts are super easy to source. But if your trucks are going to be navigating, say, deep mining pits or brutal off-road conditions, you absolutely cannot afford a lightweight frame. You need heavy-duty options like Sinotruk Kawo and Shockman, which naturally sit at a higher price point. Finally, you have premium joint venture brands like Isuzu. They offer superb reliability and lower fuel consumption, but they definitely demand a higher initial premium compared to the domestic brands.
Now, imagine your tank capacity makes a massive jump. Let's say you decide to go from 10,000 liters all the way up to 25,000 liters.
You aren't just supersizing your fast food order here, you're fundamentally changing the physics of the entire vehicle. When you scale up that capacity, it forces a total chassis upgrade. Moving from 10,000 to 25,000 liters means jumping from a standard 4x2 chassis to a much heavier 6x4 chassis. This significantly increases your gross vehicle weight, or GVW. You're stepping up the axle capacity, you're going to need a much more powerful engine, and you have to add heavy-duty tires. Essentially, you're paying for a much heavier, far more capable foundation.
All right, let's keep moving. Section 3, tank materials and capacity, building the body.
Have you ever wondered how global metal prices actually dictate your truck's final quotation? Well, manufacturers quote tank bodies strictly based on the weight of the raw material used. So when the per-ton price of steel or aluminum shifts on the global market, your vehicle quote is going to fluctuate right along with it.
Think of material selection as a strict procurement matrix. Choosing a metal is really a balancing act between your budget, the vehicle's weight, and its operational lifespan. Carbon steel? That gives you the lowest initial cost, and it's heavily used for municipal water and standard fuel. It's strong and super easy to repair locally, but man, it is incredibly heavy. Aluminum alloy sits at a higher price point. It's primarily used for aviation and highway fuel because of its lightweight, non-sparking design, which actually increases your payload. And finally, stainless steel. This is the highest cost material, and it's reserved mostly for corrosive chemicals in drinking water, mainly because of its exceptional rust resistance and how easy it is to sanitize.
Let's actually look closely at the long-term ROI of aluminum versus carbon steel, because this is fascinating. Carbon steel has that appealing lower upfront cost, for sure, but its heavy weight naturally limits your legal payload. Aluminum alloy, on the other hand, has a notably higher initial material cost. However, because it is significantly lighter, fleet operators can legally carry far more liquid per trip without exceeding road weight limits. Over the lifespan of the truck, moving more product per trip actively reduces your long-term transportation costs, which completely changes your return on investment. Sometimes, spending a little more upfront really does save you money over time.
Okay, Section 4. Equipment and application costs. Customizing for the cargo.
Basically, what you are hauling completely changes the required safety standards and equipment. Let's break it down into tiers. Water trucks are the most affordable. Standard water isn't highly corrosive or flammable, right? So they just use standard Q235 or Q345 carbon steel with a very straightforward production process. Now, fuel trucks represent a higher cost tier. To comply with safety regulations like ADR, fuel tanks require complex internal anti-surge baffles to prevent the liquid from sloshing around. They also need bottom-loading systems, vapor recovery valves, and API standard discharge ports. Finally, chemical trucks. These are in a league of their own at the highest cost tier. Because you're hauling hazardous liquids, you are paying for heavy-duty chemical resistance. That means using expensive 304 or 316L stainless steel or carbon steel fitted with a specialized polyethylene lining. On top of that, the welding process for these tanks is incredibly complex, which mechanically adds quite a bit to the manufacturing bill.
And beyond just safety, the operational equipment you install changes the final quotation too. Adding things like high-pressure flushing systems and larger water pumps requires a stronger power takeoff, or PTO. For fuel trucks, buyers frequently add flow meters, automated fuel dispensers, and hose reels so the truck can refuel machinery directly. While these add-ons definitely inflate the initial quote, they are exactly what transforms a simple metal tube on wheels into a highly versatile piece of mobile machinery, maximizing its functional value out in the field.
All right, wrapping things up with Section 5. Making the right choice, evaluating the whole package.
So, if you are evaluating options at a provider, like say CN Special Vehicle, here are some specific tactics to really empower your procurement. Rule number 1, please don't just look for the lowest price. An artificially low quote very often hides weak specifications. It might mean the manufacturer is using a thinner tank wall, an undersized pump, or a lightweight chassis that will literally just fall apart on rough local roads. You must ensure you match the actual specifications to your exact operational needs and your local road regulations. Reviewing these exact details is how you protect your entire investment.
Which leaves us with this final thought. Are you buying for the lowest price today or the best value for your fleet tomorrow? The next time a supplier hands you a rock-bottom quote, ask yourself, what exactly are they hiding in the fine print? Take this blueprint, demand absolute transparency, and you will never look at a commercial truck quote the same way again.